Hey there, welcome back to the vlog. So it's New Year's Eve and I'm just heading to a theatre now to watch Star Wars at last, as I haven't been to see it yet. So I figured, seeing as everybody else on the planet's probably already been, it's probably a good time for me to go do it and try not to get run over on my way there. Annalise has already been to see it. Karen hasn't. So, what did you think of it first time?
I enjoyed it. I did do a rather long video over on my channel talking about it.
Link below.
It was longer before editing it.
We'll get some more info from a second viewing perspective afterwards. And Karen, you haven't seen it yet, have you? So, first timer like me will see what it comes out like. Well, we've just come out of the movie and I've got to say, first impressions were, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. What do you think, Karen?
Good.
I mean, this is the second time I've seen it and I enjoyed it just as much.
And I pretty much have to go with that as well. I would quite happily come back and watch this again. There's a lot of stuff that the people who have sort of had complaints or misgivings about this film, I think, can basically bite me. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I can see there was some of the comedy was maybe misplaced a couple of times if that's not what you're expecting, but it was nowhere near as overbearing as a lot of people were going on about.
I mean, I did cover a lot of stuff in my video, but I don't think I got everything because I cut a lot. But yeah, I really liked it. I have to say, every time, even though I know it's coming at the beginning when they have the Star Wars and the loud noise, and it comes on, every time I watch a Star Wars movie, I know it's coming. It still surprises me and I jump a little bit.
Yeah, so basically I just kind of feel sorry for people that come along to these things with unrealistic expectations, and then the film doesn't do exactly what they were planning it to do. So, yeah, if their expectations aren't met, then they're not going to be happy. But I think you need to come along to movies and
With an open mind.
with an open mind, yes, exactly, and just enjoy them for what they are. So I'll go into it a bit more later on and pick out some things that other people have been saying about it and written to pieces. Anyway, now we're going to have a nice chocolate and then head home. Okay, so I'm home now and I've had some dinner and a chance to think about the new Star Wars film and what I've thought of it and let it sort of simmer through my brain a wee bit. And I've also been online and I've looked up other people's reactions and stuff, and it's totally not what you'd think from listening to people yabber on about it and reading the odd tweet. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that I found, and I've picked out the top 10 complaints about the new Star Wars films, and I thought I'd go over them and let you know what I thought about them. Anyway, the one of the most common ones I've come across was people who don't like Yoda because it looks too much like a puppet. Well, my thoughts on that were, yeah, he does look a bit like a puppet, but who cares? I think it works. It worked in all the previous movies, and I don't actually have a problem with it. If anything put me off with the whole Yoda thing, it was how the blue glow around him was rendered. It looked a bit oddball, but you know, it doesn't actually matter, and it didn't take me away from the story or the movie or anything like that. I just thought, yeah, it's a little odd special effect around the edges of him and things, and I was a little bit conscious of him being puppety because people had talked about that. But I didn't see there was any particular problem with it. I mean, there's a hell of a lot worse things out there, and I personally think the puppet was better than the CGI that they've used for it in some of the other films. So, yeah, if anything, it was kind of nostalgic from the whole Yoda and Dagobah thing, and then in the first trilogy of films, or second trilogy of films, depending on how you judge them. The other one, next one I heard quite a bit was they killed off Snoke too quickly instead of developing that storyline. Now this is another thing. I don't think the timing was particularly wrong at all. I think it was a good device, and it changed the whole balance of power and politics, and it gave the story a really good way to develop and move into another stage, and changed the emphasis of characters and their roles. I think was at the right time in the film and the right time in this particular trilogy of films as well. This whole film was kind of like the first three films, episodes 4, 5, and 6, rolled together. You even had a lot of the same scenes. You know, Hoth and the Salt Planet were very similar, but that kind of made a connection and sort of was part of the universe and showed that these things come in cycles, and it's a large part of what these movies is about, the cycles these things go through. So I didn't find that the whole killing off of Snoke was bad timing or anything like that anyway. General Hux' comic relief. I think there were some jokes around General Hux, but I don't see him as being a comic relief character. The character was a bit of an idiot. If you watch the films and listen to some of the dialogue, you realise that Snoke put Hux there as a puppet rather than as a great powerful leader in his own right. He's Snoke's puppet, and he's treated as such, and he is held in contempt by a lot of the people that are under him for that sort of reason. The next thing that I read quite a bit, that people thought there were too many jokes and that they were out of place. I personally didn't think that there was any difference in the jokes here and the moments of humour chosen in this film compared to any of the previous Star Wars films. There were the same kind of little bits and pieces that were being delivered by other people instead of Han Solo, for example. So maybe jokes were coming from a different direction and from a different source than people have been used to. But with Han not being there, of course, yeah, somebody else is bound to pick up that comic relief. And it was sort of shared out a little bit. And I think you need to remember that for the emotive content of a film to work, having those humorous moments followed by an opposing emotive moment are one of those things that George Lucas in particular is very good at doing to make those emotive moments more poignant. And I think that was actually really well done in this one. You know, have a bit of a laugh, and then there's something that really grips at you following on. So you have that really strong emotional swing from one state to another, instead of just a hint of a new emotion and not having something to lead into it from. It's a really good filming technique and really good writing technique, and I think that it was used really appropriately in this. The fifth thing that I've read quite often is that this film was just copying everything in the previous films. And I heard the same from the previous film, that was copying a lot of stuff from the previous films. Yeah, of course it was done like that. But I think it was very clearly done, and I think it was done in a very clever way, that it was using mechanisms that are familiar to the viewer to incorporate into this new story. There are ways of behaving in that society where things happen. Starship fights are going to work in a particular way. So yeah, they're going to be reminiscent of each other. And this is, once again, it's a story about how things cycle and repeat and recur over and over again. You know, that's the whole thing with the Force and the Jedi and the Sith. It is a repetitive cycle, and that's one of the things that they try to relay in this story, is how these natural cycles do recur, and that's a normal thing we see in everyday life. So I don't particularly have a problem with that. Once again, there were a lot of similarities between things in this film, like the island was very reminiscent of the time on Dagobah, and the reaction between Rey and Luke was the same between Luke and Yoda. Yoda appearing as the ghost form was the same as Obi-Wan appearing as the ghost form. Okay, there's a different relationship there, but that sort of thing happened, and it happened for the same sort of reason. There was a reminder of purpose in that, and a sort of a kick back to reality and why you're there kind of thing for those characters. I know, I think that sort of thing is good to repeat, because it's familiar, it's doctrine that we're used to. It makes us feel at home when we're watching these movies as well. But to say it's just copying what was done in a previous movie, I mean, but they're done in a particular way for a good reason. And I think there's just a lot of people very angry about the film, looking for things to be more angry about. Anyway, the next one I've got is people going on about all this shipping between Rey and Ben. I think you're spending far too long looking at bad Tumblr posts and fan fiction things if you're wondering about shipping between characters in this film. There was a connection and a bridge made between them with the fact that they were both strong influences in the Force, or both strongly influenced by the Force. I don't think it's got anything to do with shipping or creating a relationship between them. It was a connection that was there, that was well explained, and all these people going on about shipping between the characters just kind of need. Leia flying through space like a superhero. Once again, reading stuff into it that's not there and just trying to find something to be negative about, I think. Leia was stuck in the vacuum of space, wanted to survive, obviously, and so was using the Force to pull towards the ship. If I was in the same position and I had that ability, well, hell, I would do exactly the same thing. It just strikes me as being logical and obvious. If that hadn't happened, you'd be having a whole pile of probably the same people complaining, saying, why didn't she use the Force to pull the ship towards herself, or herself towards the ship, or something like that? I don't know. I think it was perfectly viable, and I don't have any particular problem with it. The next one, Luke milking the creature on the island. Yeah, okay. I don't see anything wrong with it, but it was superfluous. Did that need to be in the film? Yeah, I don't know. Did it serve some sort of purpose? I guess it did in the mind of the director. There may have been an in-joke or something in there, I don't know. If that wasn't in the movie, I don't think it would make any difference whatsoever. If they wanted to do some other mechanism to make Rey feel uncomfortable being around Luke on the island, I'm sure there were 1,000 other things they could have picked to do. Is it necessarily a bad thing in the film? No, not really. No more than the sort of little things eyeballing Chewbacca and making him feel guilty when he's eating a roasted little thing. Next one, ninth one. Now, there's a lot of stuff that critics jumped on this thing early about. I think even before it came out, there were a lot of really naysaying and negative critical responses to this film. And one I read here was, the film was digressive rather than progressive. The Last Jedi fails to develop the new, exciting and complex characters we met in The Force Awakens. There were a lot of these professional critic kind of things coming out in some magazines and online websites that do a lot of this stuff, who seem to take any new thing that comes out and all they do is rag on it. 10 reasons to hate the new iPhone. 10 reasons this new game sucks. 5 reasons not to like something else. And all of these new articles about new things, new technology, new films coming out and everything that these people put out, I'm not going to name names because they'll come and sue me or some shit. They're always so negative and derisive, and they've never got anything nice to say, because all they're trying to do is make more money off clickbait, and they know that ragging on things will get you far more clicks than being nice about anything. It's a really sad state of affairs. So the only thing we can do about that is, guys, if you see any of these negative article things, just don't go read them, and go find a positive article and click on that and load that 1,000,000 times instead. The 10th thing I've found, and this is more of a fan-based thing of the same, is people jumping on the bandwagon and sending a lot of messages with the hashtag #NotMyStarWars. For all the people posting on that, I completely agree with you. It's not your Star Wars. If this isn't the Star Wars you like and you'd rather do it differently, please go ahead, write some fanfic, make your own movie. We're more than happy to go and watch that and see your story as well. This isn't your story. This is somebody else's story. Go and enjoy it for what it is, will you? There are far too many people who have set expectations of what they want to see in this movie, before it's shot, filmed, before it comes out, how they think the story should progress and that sort of thing. And they go into these movies. It's not just this movie. The Thor movie had the same. All of the previous Star Wars movies have had the same sort of article and advice come out after them. People going into these films and the film isn't what they're expecting, and they complain about it. If you go into these films with an unrealistic expectation, then no, your expectations are not going to be met. Personally, I prefer to go into every movie I see with absolutely no expectations of what it's going to be like, and just enjoy it for what it is. And it was the same with this one. I read a lot of stuff about it, because I usually don't give a rat's about spoilers or anything like that. So I'll go and read a whole pile of stuff and see what other people's opinions are and that sort of thing. And but then I'll just go along to the movie and I'll just sit there and watch it and enjoy it. I'm not interested in going and finding reasons to rag on a film for not being what I wanted it to be. If I want a movie to be something else, I'll go and make a movie. In summary, I found the film, it was entertaining. I found that it was fairly consistent. I found that things evolved rather rapidly, if nothing else. It's a great evolution in the understanding of the Force and how the characters understand the Force, and how they've learnt that this highly polarized view of the Jedi and the Sith is an artificial construct that they've created themselves on the Force, that the Force does exist of good and evil. You know, it's like duct tape. There's a dark side and a light side, and it binds the universe together. But the Force itself isn't good or evil. It's how the people that are perceptive of the Force apply it. And they're learning that, I think. And there's a parallel there to religion and our world, and how people take highly polarized views, like whether a movie is awesome or whether a movie sucks, for example. It's just a movie. If you can choose to enjoy it, or you can choose to hate it, or you can just accept it for what it is, and I think your life would be a lot happier. Anyway, that's my opinions. After having watched it once and thought about it for a couple of hours over dinner and a nice piece of pavlova, which comes from New Zealand, by the way, not Australia, just clearing that up. If you liked what I had, or if you've got any opposing comments, please do put them in the comments below. I'm really always very keen to have a discussion either way, as long as it's a discussion and not just a flame wars, because no one's interested in that. That's just boring. Please click subscribe, which is just there, and don't forget to click the like button, notifications, and all of those neat things as well. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy the rest of the vlog. Please go back and let all my movies run back to back overnight when you're not using your computer, so that I get more view time, because that's what Mr. YouTube likes. And I will see you tomorrow with something else. I'm going to be taking the drone out and getting some shots like this one.